All right. This morning, y'all didn't get to see how the fire got started, so figured I'd show you that now. So this is the fire from this morning. I haven't done anything to it besides rake out the coals to shut it down. So the first thing to do is make sure it's cool. Put your hand in there and make sure there's no heat. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go through and visually inspect. We're trying to save stuff like this light coke stuff. That'll be real good for starting the fire. And if you can get big chunks like this, that's really good. It'll make starting the fire easier. What I kind of do is, it's so light that I just kind of go in there with my hand and feel it. It makes a certain sound and it feels a certain way. It's nice and light and it has kind of like a popcorn texture almost, kind of the same weight. So I just kind of go in there and kind of rake it out. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get as much of that, save as much of that as I can to make starting the fire easier. So that's that's the first step, is cleaning out the fire pot. And then second here, when we get down to this really tiny stuff, I'll bring out a tool which makes this really easy. And the whole time too, I'm looking for that trash, the garbage. It's called clinker. Here's a piece right here, if I can get it with my finger. It's this really light, it's lighter than coke, and it's got like this brown, sandy color to it. That's the silicate that's left over. There's another piece. So even little tiny pieces like that, it's worth getting out of your fire, because it'll just sit in the bottom and block up the air if you don't. Okay, so now I'm down to this really tiny stuff. And what I'll do now, just grab a screen, just go in there and shake it up a little bit, pick out all the pieces of clinker I can find. There's a piece. And the screen is not so much for the clinker. I also want to get rid of all the ash that's down in here, because on top of the clinker, a bunch of ash will build up that we don't necessarily want. So, there's a certain amount of diminishing returns here, so you could spend your time getting every last piece of coke out. But at a certain point, you just have to be happy with the fuel that you've saved and just call it good, because all this ash will not burn. So something I'll do too is just kind of rake this over the clinker breaker, which I'll show you in a second, because there's a small gap where it will let the really small stuff through, but it will keep some of this smaller fuel. Oh, there's a big piece of clinker. That's a big one. Clinker, dragon poop. Heard it be called many things. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this. Let me see here. Yeah, you can kind of see it. I'll move the screen. There's a little handle that comes out where I'm standing right here, and I'm able to twist this thing. This is called a clinker breaker, and it's made for clearing the airway, the airflow during operation. So it breaks clinker and cleans out the airway. Okay. So as far as starting the fire, it's not very complicated. Just pieces of cardboard. So that sheet's probably enough. And I have some little pieces of wood I've pretty split with the chisel and soft hammer. So I'll just, this is, you know, pretty much step for step the exact same process that I use every morning. Just a lighter, make sure that that's going nice and well. And then just add more fuel and a little bit of air. And it's gonna smoke up in here because I have both the doors open, so the draw is not doing me any favors. Something you can do to help with that is get a piece of cardboard on fire and then set it in here. Just set the spatula on top, give it some weight. And when I see that the wood is catching, I'll start adding, slowly I'll start adding Coke. Not trying to smother it, just trying to get some of these bigger pieces warmed up. So these bigger pieces are great to go in the sides and the corner, just to give like a little structure. But then as we keep going, I'll rake in the smaller stuff. Those big pieces help create little air pockets so that you don't smother the fire completely when you add in the bigger stuff. And this whole time, you can't see it, but this whole time I'm just steadily giving a good amount, kind of like for my blower, like a medium amount of air for my little hand crank blower. So now I'll just add a little bit of Coke right on the top. And then this part's really important. From here on out, you really don't want to take any more breaks with the air. You really want to, you know, let the fire run. Give it as much air as you can. And of course, this is different from starting fire with green coal. It's a little bit different. I have a little bit of green coal here, but it's mostly Coke on the table right now, which means it's a lot easier to start the fire. If I can take some green coal. Let me take some green coal here and just throw it on top so you can see what it looks like. You'll see this real ugly kind of green smoke come up. So not right here, this is white smoke. But if you look in the middle, right here, you should see that green smoke. And the way to get rid of that is just to knock a hole in the fire, because that green smoke is flammable, and as soon as it has the ability to, the fire will burn off all that smoke. Well, it's trying to, but it will in a second. It will burn all that green off. And again, it's not helping that the doors are open, so we're getting a little bit of a cross breeze here in the doorway. There it goes. Now it's finally going up. Almost. Woo! And that is how, that's how I start a coal fire. So now it's going. It's going now. But I need to get a hole in the top here so it can keep burning off all the smoke. All right, there you go.